Do these figures today give you sort of confidence that the soft landing is looking more feasible?
Well, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Obviously, we know from the Treasury forecasts that we expect inflation to moderate. We expect the economy to continue to grow, but slower than we have been used to in recent decades. And these numbers give us some hope that the employers and the workers of this country are hanging in, even under pressure. I wanted to pay tribute to the employers and the workers of this country hanging in despite all of the pressures that they are under in our own economy, but also the global economic uncertainty. This does give us some confidence that we approach the uncertainties of 2024 from a position of strength. Patrick.
You actually addressed this a bit yesterday, but in today's figures we see the very strong population growth, the impact that's having on the unemployment rate, despite the very strong jobs growth in the month. How do you think this interaction between this kind of easing in migration growth and easing in population growth through the coming 12 months, what kind of effect do you think that will have on the employment?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think we should recognise that the employment to population ratio increased in November a little bit, 0.1 percentage points higher through the year, and that's a good thing. And what that tells us is that these new jobs created aren't just a function of population growth, that jobs are growing faster than population, and that's what we want to see. Clearly, and we saw it in the population numbers released separately today as well, they came in largely as expected within that 2% margin of error for that spike in net overseas migration that we saw last year, before we expect net overseas migration to halve next year. Clearly population is a factor when it comes to our jobs market, but what we see today is a welcome development, which is jobs growing faster than population. The other important point about population, and you see it in the Bureau of Statistics release about population itself, is that even that number for 2022-23, which came in around what we were anticipating, even with that number, total net overseas migration since 2019-20 is 177,000 people fewer than was forecast before the pandemic. And I think that's an important bit of context to the important and welcome debate about migration settings and migration strategy. Is even with these numbers that we see released today, we're still 177,000 short of what our predecessors were expecting by that point, and I think that's important to note. We're going to go Rachel, then Shane, then Michael, then Poppy, then Fee, and then Jess.
Thanks, Treasurer. Just following from John's question, I think, really, how do you feel about the speed at which the jobs market is slowing?
Well, obviously we see around the edges of the jobs data, some evidence of softening. We've seen it in hours, we've seen it in job ads and in other ways. But I think overwhelmingly the story about our labour market's a story of resilience. It's softening in expected ways. We still expect, or we still forecast, the Treasury still forecasts an uptick in the unemployment rate. But it really is quite remarkable that we got to the end of November with an unemployment rate with a 3 in front of it, with 61,500 jobs created, almost all of them full-time. That's a pretty stunning outcome given the conditions. But we still can see in the data some softening around the edges. We still expect, as I said yesterday when I released the Treasury forecast, that the unemployment rate will tick up over the coming months.